What's up, banana bunch? Bunch? Bunch?
Welcome to the Junglejims podcast. What's up, Banana Bunch? You know what time it is. It's time for another episode of the Junglejims podcast. I'm your host, Mark. Welcome to the show. We've got a fun one this week here. I'm bringing on one of my pals. He's done a lot of great things in the community. You know, every so often I like to kind of talk about our neighbors in the area, right? Because a lot of you come to Junglejims. You'll travel from far places, and I know a lot of the locals come out too. But a common question I'm always receiving is like, what else can we do when we're in the area? And the area is kind of blowing up a little bit. So I invited my pal Brad Baker onto the show. Brad, you may know, he's won things like #1 citizen of Hamilton, Ohio. He's been huge in the revitalization of the area, owns Pinball Garage. He was on Shark Tank, so we talk about all kinds of stuff. I've got him trying some products with me. It's a great interview. Brad's an awesome guy. I think you'll really have fun with this. But I wanted to launch, normally I've been pulling out the ad here. And since I didn't grab a paper copy, first off, I thought I would tell you, hey, you can now download the Junglejims app. It's available on iPhone, it's available for Android devices, and on the app, you can actually view the weekly ad. And I always like to tell people this too. On Sunday nights, you can view the following week's ad too, so you can kind of get a little head start there. There's always some great deals. I saw some stuff on pasta this week, and I'm feeling pasta in my life. But Brad and I are trying these on the show. We're trying some products from Blackwater. You may not have heard of Blackwater before, and if not, I'm going to get you hip. They come in a couple different versions. In my hand right now, I'm showing you, this is one of their still waters. And they've got that in a few flavors like strawberry rhubarb, which also appears in their sparkling line. They have the still in cans as well. They've got a couple different flavors. A few things. I'll just read off the, I'm going to read this off the back of the package so I don't mess this up. And I'm also going to give you a little blurb that they sent me about the founders, which I think is fun too. Fulvic Fusion, distinctly black. Black is a blend of purified water and our patented fulvic mineral complex. This one here, for example, black is life in a bottle. It's a healthy and delicious functional water with electrolytes, antioxidants, and fulvic minerals to supercharge your health and life. I personally just like that it tastes delicious. There's a bunch of different flavors that come with the sparkling, and we have been crushing them. Look, if you're one of my friends, every time one of you have stopped by the studio recently, I've sent you out with a can to try and tell you to let me know what you think about it. I know I've got at least 4 different flavors in here. I know I've showed you the strawberry rhubarb. My personal favorite is the dirty lemonade. It rules. Very close seconds there. I think it's Calabasas apple, and there's an elderberry one too. They all really rip. Those are my favorites. Hands down, you got to try them out here. But I'm just going to read this. I want to read this so I don't mess it up. I always do that. What happens is I'll get a note like this, and I'll try to memorize it. And as soon as the camera goes on, I'm like, oh, I kind of need a teleprompter. So I'm just going to read this directly to you. So here's a little bit about the founding story. In 2011, Jacqueline and Louise Wilkie were researching health aids and products to assist their mother with her breast cancer diagnosis. As they began their search, they found many products claim miracle health aids to relieve, quote, miracle health aids to relieve pain and boost the immune system. This is when they discovered fulvic acid and began administering it to their mother. After about a week, she noticed an improvement in her energy and that her overall stiffness had eased up. Experimenting with various forms of fulvic acid, they decided to bottle the fulvic mineral formula as a functional beverage, and that was the birth of Black. The intent behind Black was to help others, and they're now taking that forward with their fulvic-enriched products that we feel very passionately about. That they feel very passionate about. I got all of the tenses swapped except for that last one. Point is, if you've tried it, I know a lot of you have been like, oh, this is really good. The regular water tastes like water. The flavored ones are delicious. And again, I have been drinking so much of this, and I will offer this up to you. I know we're talking about a couple things here. First and foremost, Blackwater is going to be visiting us on the 20th and 21st of January. If I recall correctly, it is the 20th in the Fairfield store, the 21st at Eastgate store. So they're going to be doing samples. They're going to be telling you all about the product. I'm pretty sure it's our pal Alex that'll be here doing that. So Alex, looking forward to meeting you, of course. Looking forward to everybody trying this. And if you all have tried this, let me know what your favorite flavor is. If you have not and you go to try it, let me know what your favorite flavor is. And if you're in the area and you want to just stop by, look, I offer this all the time. Come on by. I've got extras in my office. I keep a lot of them cold and ready for you. And I would love to put a can in your hand so you can try too. really good. Just like I did for Brad on the show today. I'm curious what you all think about this. It's been a fun year. I think we all know I'm a big beverage person in general. So I'm here for that zero sugar life. I'm here for that zero sugar supremacy, baby. Oh, and one thing I will mention to all of you here, as far as ingredients, natural flavors, the fulvic minerals, and they do use a slight bit of stevia extract just to give it a hint of sweetness. It's not super intense, but I do know that there's apparently a lot of stevia haters out there, so I just want to warn you on that. Some of the flavor, it's funny, like I like the strawberry and the sparkling, but I really like it in flat for some reason. It's the only flavor where that works. Mostly it's the other way around, but I love a sparkling beverage, so what can I say? If you haven't yet, follow us on the new TikTok account, Jungle Gyms Official. Please do that. We're very close to being able to go live there again, which means more of our giveaways will get ramped back up. Really looking forward to doing that. Again, companies like Black and so many other companies, they want to put their products in your hands, and we want to make it really easy for you to try. I appreciate all the support there. Let me think of what else we've got going on here. Okay, one other really big one, and I'm going to read this off so I have all the details correct for you. On the 22nd here at, I've got the 22nd at Jungle Gyms Eastgate from 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Our friends at UC Health are coming out with their mobile mammography van or bus. I think it looks more like a van to me, but let's be clear about that. With their vehicle, and they will be out here doing some screenings. Life-saving convenience at your door. And, I know... Look, I did a whole breast cancer special a few months back. If you haven't watched it, I would tell you to go back in the back catalog and check that out. It's a really great episode. Different group of doctors, but that doesn't matter. We're all here for your health. So definitely check that out at the Eastgate store. And I'm double checking because I thought they were coming to both stores. Okay, I was right. They are coming to both stores. It's on the same date, Monday, January 22nd. They will be visiting the Fairfield store that day, later in the day from 12:30 p.m. until 3 p.m. You can reach out if you want up front. Reach out and you can schedule your screening with them at calling area code 513-584-PINK. So that's 513-584-7465. They're going to come out and do that. I think it'd be very cool. Everyone gets screened. It's just a good idea in general. I would love to keep as many of you around as long as possible, except for maybe just a few of you. No, I'm kidding. I love you all. You know how this goes. Jokes first. Okay, on that note, now we've got all the clerical stuff out of the way. I want to, maybe I can try to welcome him to the show. Who do you think is going to say it first? Me or Brad?
Welcome to the show.
Well, maybe let's just jump in with it. Welcome to the show for real this time. That's where I'll cut it as on your welcome. Well, all of the salacious stuff I've cut out already. Brad, seriously, welcome. You've been so kind to me over the years. I actually kind of mad at myself I didn't force this upon you earlier.
Oh, that's all right.
I'm that type of guy, though, where I'm just sort of like, they'll let me know if they want to come on.
That's good, man. I mean, you said earlier you're a couple weeks out on production. Super congrats on that, man. I mean, a lot of folks are scratching every day to get their next day show. So having a couple weeks of good content is awesome. a good testament to the cool stuff you guys do.
Well, thank you. And, it is, I joke at a place like Jungle Gyms, it's kind of hard to run out of ideas.
Endless, man.
Yeah, it's
Endless.
crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Before we, instead of just talking about me,
that's what I thought. That's what I came here for.
Brad, just say nice things to me for the next half hour. Brad, tell us who you are. Explain it like I'm 5. Why are you here today?
I'm not sure why I'm here, but my name is Brad Baker. I own a couple local businesses here in Butler County and downtown Hamilton. I own the Pinball Garage, recently acquired All Laid Up, and then we have the Champion Mill Arcade now in Spooky Nook Entertainment.
Oh, I didn't know about that
in the
one.
Sports Center.
That's awesome.
Huge arcade, bigger than Pinball Garage.
Really? All right.
Yeah, pretty awesome. So talk about that. But yeah, just kind of, and I like food a lot. I grew up hanging out at Jungle Gyms. My father-in-law is good friends with Jungle. So
cool.
Just been like kind of a part of our family growing up.
I love it. And you're just doing cool stuff in the neighborhood all the time anyway, which is like, I think that's really how you and I officially met.
Absolutely. I think
so funny.
We have kindred spirits in doing cool stuff because life's too short to do like boring stuff.
Amen to that, Brad. Amen to that. Well, and I really do love focusing on the neighborhood every so often too, because, I've done a lot of stuff with like Travel Butler County before.
Yeah, they're great.
And what's cool to me is that because, I know, how how should I say? I don't want to say the word spoiled. I don't think that's maybe the best word, but for lack of a better term, I feel like internally we're a little spoiled because we're like, this is this cool place, and now I've been coming here 5 days a week for the last 2 years. So
you get numb. You get numb to the coolness. Of
right,
the place.
Exactly. And so I always like to think about this because I know a lot of people travel great distances to come here to Jungle Gyms in general, and there's a lot of stuff going on that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the neighborhood wasn't like it is
Not
now.
at all.
But now it's like blowing up. There's hotel. When I saw there's like a graduate hotel opening in Hamilton, I was like, it's happening.
Oh no, honestly, 10 or 15 years ago, I would say Jungle was probably the only destination style place where people came from more than like 30 or 40 minutes away.
Right.
One, for the international grocery choices, and two, just because of the spectacle of Jungle Gyms. So it's cool. I'm glad that it's been here. It's an awesome place. Whenever friends come into town, it's still always the first place you say, oh, you got to check it out. It's kind of like Kings Island kind of a thing. Like, you got to go check it out.
Yeah.
So, but it's super awesome to see all these new things like Spooky Nook, like, we've got Pinball Garage. We've got all these cool new restaurants downtown Hamilton that just weren't around before. So
I joked, man. The only thing I would ever come up here for around, especially we're recording this, it's December, depending on when this airs. I'd come up here around the holidays because I'd go through Pyramid Hill and then I'd come to Jungle Gyms. And now now it's like a date. I'm like, okay, there's multiple restaurants I can pick from. Yeah. And like, and they're all great too. That's actually the thing.
Right. Who would have guessed that you would have had a Tano Bistro downtown Hamilton,
right.
Which there's also one in Loveland. If you're not familiar with it, it's a kind of a nice semi high end restaurant with small plates and really gourmet type of chef prepared dishes.
That's awesome.
And that's something like even 5 years ago that might not have done well in Hamilton, but it's thriving, which is great.
It's so cool to see. It's I always think back this was when I went to school at UC briefly, but I remember one of our first months in the program, they took us to Hamilton, I think to the Fitness Center, I'm assuming it is.
Yeah.
And
my buddy Ian McKenzie Thurley runs Fitness Center. Quick plug for him.
Oh, please.
Phenomenal place. They're really one of the pioneers in the community for the arts and for all the cool. Hamilton has a ton of art stuff. Yeah. There's sculptures everywhere. If you haven't been through Hamilton in a while and you take time to get out and walk around, you're going to see sculptures everywhere. You're going to see all these cool paintings on the side of buildings that all just started happening the past few years. And it's all Hamilton relevant stuff. There's just rad stuff. And the Fitness Center has played a big part in that. There's just so many cool art things. There's Art Space, which is a place where artists actually have inexpensive rent, where they have studios in their apartments and they create things in there. In order to get an apartment in there, you have to have you have to do something with arts. It could be sculptures, it could be painting, it could be any form of art, and the whole space is that. And there's a gallery on the first floor that showcases all these artists' work, and it's right on High Street, downtown Hamilton. Cool place.
That is so cool. I think I maybe walked in there at one of maybe Operation Pumpkin or one of those that I
you would have. Yeah, the art gallery right there in Operation Pumpkin. That's Art Space.
Okay.
My buddy David Stark runs that, and he curates all the stuff there and brings in the artists and does all that rad stuff. And it's another place you can walk in anytime and see local art. The term starving artist is a real thing. So it's great that they have an inexpensive place to live so they can focus on whatever, it helps their creative juices get flowing and stuff. That's crazy. I'm not an artist, but I can appreciate the art.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, listen, it's a balancing act, right? It's like, somebody's got to be in the parade, somebody's got to clap as it walks by. And it's a perfect thing in that artist situation. It's crazy to think that I'm surprised we have a space like that in the Midwest in general, right?
Yeah, let alone Butler County.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not never trying to be rude about it, but it's just a place that probably previously would not be known for that.
If you go back traditionally, this whole area is just more Midwestern farm town type of folks, and it's not the big city vibe that you get when you go to New York or Chicago or somewhere where you have all the art stuff.
Right. Too much in my experience.
In some cases, it's overwhelming, right? So some of the great artists just get swallowed up in those towns where maybe they could come to a town like this and be appreciated for what they do, which is really cool. We've got art all throughout. Pinball Garage done by local artists. We've got graffiti on the walls from local artists.
It looks so cool too.
Yeah, I mean, just random stuff like that is great.
I think it's cool. Look, one of the things I really love about you is that you have really, you are, look, we were joking off air a minute ago about Citizen of the Year in Hamilton, but you've really invested a lot of not just your time, effort, obviously I would guess money too.
A lot.
But, yeah, exactly.
Untold numbers.
Yeah, it's like, we'll be pulling
that would be a therapy,
the number on
that would
screen.
be a therapy session later. We don't want to discuss that.
Sit on the couch, Brad.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I know you've invested so much of just yourself too into making the place a better place. As corny as that might sound.
And we came here by happenstance, So,
really?
So back in wow, it's probably been 7-8 years now, when I had the manufacturing business making the virtual pinball machines, VP Cabs. We were in Fairfield and we were outgrowing the space. So we just started looking for a new spot to just to manufacture only. And this building downtown Hamilton popped up, and it was previously Jim's Goodyear, which is owned by the Pullman family, who also a huge part of the Hamilton community. Eric Pullman currently serves in Hamilton. There's just the whole family has always been part of the culture in Hamilton. So we saw the building for sale, or for rent, I should say, and we checked it out, and we're like, man, this would be great for manufacturing. There were some parts of it where we didn't know what to do with because it's in a busy part of town. There was like a front showroom area where you would hang out while your tires were getting changed, I guess, is what that was.
Sure.
But it was all kind of older and more ran down. Somebody had bought the building. They had an auction, sold off all the stuff inside, and it was just a big, ugly, empty shell. It still had oil everywhere. I mean, it was just, and we took it that way because it was a really good deal. The owner was like, hey, we sold everything out of it. We want to rent it, but we don't really want to invest in the renovations. At the time, Spooky's Nook wasn't around yet. Right. Hamilton was still kind of on the upswing with stuff going on. And they just didn't want another auto shop in there just to make more messes. Right. So we rented it as a factory only. So we started manufacturing our games there. And shortly after, some of the folks from town found out about our Shark Tank deal and were like, hey, let us show you what's happening in Hamilton with all these new things, with this cool new sports complex that's coming in a couple years. Yeah. And we would like you to consider maybe opening up some sort of like arcade, restaurant, bar. And my first thought was, man, that's not my thing. Like, I love food. Yeah. And I've always had a dream of being a restaurant owner, but I also knew the chances of being successful at that are very slim. Sure. So I kind of brushed it off a little, but they kept just kind of like, hey, let's take you for a ride around town and show you this and do that. And once they showed me what was coming and all the cool stuff happening, I was like, man, we got to do it. Yeah. So Pinball Garage just kind of happened by a great mistake, I guess you'd say. We had no plans to do that. We were just going to build games, sell games, and just be happy with a bigger new space. But it worked out great with that, with everything up front and all the change that we did and the remodeling. It made the perfect like arcade bar up front, which is
honestly
cool.
Look, I've been to a lot of those arcade bars over the years, as you can imagine. I'm your target customer, or at least on the list, and I'm not just saying this because you're here and because I like you. I mean, that helps. Don't get me wrong. But I had not always really enjoyed myself at a lot of those places. But I think you've done a great job, more importantly, because obviously you're passionate about, I would assume, pinball. At least it appears to be that way.
It's a big part of my life.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Big part of my life. Sure.
Because of it, you've curated great tables. You've got great games. I love the expansion you did in the back with the, you know what I mean? Like, you've done a great job curating to me. It's always funny to me, too, because, I tell everybody I live in Kentucky. And every time I go up there, I run into somebody from another part of town that I know that has come also a decent distance to come play there. I think it's a real testament to what you've built.
Appreciate that. We've got a lot of pinball machines. Pinball machines generally are very expensive, so to find a bunch of them in one place is crazy on my part, but cool from the standpoint of a person that wants to come play pinball. It brings back the nostalgia that a lot of 30, 40, 50-somethings maybe had when they were a kid. And even pinball goes back clear into the 40s and 50s. So folks all the way into their 70s and 80s enjoy pinball. So it's a wide age range of people that can enjoy it. And we love that they're bringing their kids and grandkids to introduce a new generation of folks into pinball, because today's modern pinball is 4K LCD screens and really cool interactive toys in the game. So, and a lot of cool licensing themes. So you're going to get all the modern licenses of all the modern movies and, movies, sports, musicians. You'll see all that stuff in pinball these days, which is fun.
I think one of the last times I came, I was like, okay, there's a Rush table and a Venom table. I'm like, oh, great. I'm very interested
Venom's
in this.
The latest one from Stern. It's got a lot of cool, fun stuff in it. We've got Toy Story that's newer. We've got, you name it. There's Guns N' Roses. There's all the bands. Elton John was just released last week from Jersey Jack Pinball. Cool. And it's a beautiful looking pinball machine. So we do our best to try to grab all the latest and new pinballs. There's even a really oddball. A new company came out 2 weeks ago and surprised everybody with a Labyrinth, the movie, David Bowie Labyrinth.
No kidding.
Yeah.
It's just his cod
and
piece,
his face is on the back of it. And at first you're like, that's strange, but the game itself plays so well. It's like a phenomenal game.
That's cool.
And it's got all the cool, snippets from the movie in it. Yeah. And a lot of folks are like, what the heck was Labyrinth? Labyrinth as the movie. Yeah. But it makes for a fun pinball game. And it was probably, honestly, on their standpoint, it's probably a cheap license. So, it
probably was.
They snagged it up. They proved that they can make a good game. Yeah. And next they'll probably produce something maybe a little more, relevant or something. but you'll see a lot of cool stuff like that pop up, and people are like, "Oh yeah, I remember that movie." You know, if you're 40 or older, you'll remember Labyrinth, maybe.
Yeah, but Labyrinth was one of those ones that I remember as I was like exploring movie, like kind of underseen or underloved movies. That was one that I always, and I was a big Jim Henson guy anyway growing up.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I kept hearing about it. And I watched it like in my mid-20s. I was like, oh, this is cool. Why was this not successful?
Like the dark side of the Muppets, kind of.
Yeah, seriously. And I was kind of like, oh, it's a bummer it wasn't more successful, because I would love to see more weird things like that. Although I guess, what was this other one that didn't do great? Dark Crystal, I think. They did a sequel on Netflix.
See, I don't even remember that one.
Yeah, that was, they did a sequel on Netflix a couple years ago. I remember the toys came in here. I was like, okay, Netflix went in. And then they were like, we're only going in for one season.
Yeah.
Anyway, a big nerd over on the side of the table. I love that I'm going to have to come play that one.
Yeah, I don't have it yet. It just came out, but that's something on our list.
That's cool.
Snag, so it'll be fun.
Who knows? Maybe by the time I get around to airing this, it could be there. We'll punch an intro there. All right, so I have to back up because you did drop some heat in the hair, and I do want to ask about maintenance eventually, because I'm very curious about that, since I'm assuming there's still a lot of physical moving parts in pinball machines.
Yeah.
But more importantly, you mentioned the Shark Tank thing, and I figured, can we mention that?
Sure.
Okay.
Why not?
What was that like?
Man, that was my 15 minutes of fame, literally. You know, they say everybody's owed a 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough. I say fortunate, I guess we worked hard for it. So VP Cabs, we started in like 2012, 2013.
Okay.
And
they were just like virtual pinball cabs,
yeah,
right?
so we originally we would take old beat up pinball cabinets that didn't work anymore. We rip all the old mechanical guts out, and we would basically throw like high definition displays in it. So when you'd walk up to it, it was like a hybrid between pinball and a video game.
Okay.
The benefit to it was you could download and play just about any pinball game ever made on the game.
Oh,
and
that's wild.
They're kind of like all open source, and they were free for a guy to go online, download it, and try it out on his cabinet.
Yeah.
So before the pinball cabinets were made for virtual, people would just play it on their PC, which was fun, but not quite the same experience.
Sure.
So we took it to another level, and we even had things like there were solenoids in the cabinet. When you hit the flippers, they would knock and click, and the cabinet would shake, and you could still nudge it, and the virtually the ball would nudge and move around. So we took it from playing it on your home computer. If anybody remembers the old school Microsoft pinball.
Yeah.
I mean, even back on Windows, probably like XP or 311, all the way back, you could play like an old school pinball version.
Oh, yeah. I always loved that.
It was some sort of cosmic theme.
Yeah, it was like Space Cadet or something.
It was. That's exactly. Yep, exactly.
I don't spend a lot of hours.
See, you might know more than me on that digital pinball stuff. But, and we took it to where things, by the time we sold that business, 4K screens and, all kinds of different cool stuff.
Yeah.
So we did that. I was building them in my garage for a while. And my brother, who owns a killer arcades around town, Arcade Legacy, just opened up a huge brand new location in Sharonville. A quick plug for him, man. I know you're friends with Jesse.
It was funny,
Jesse,
and it's one of my
guy.
most embarrassing moments was not realizing. I should have assumed at some point that you guys were related, but it never clicked. And then one day I was like, oh,
I'm the older, more handsome brother. I mean, we're just going to get that out of the way.
Which is why it was hard to figure it out.
Right. I get it. No, my brother is, on a side note, my brother is a pioneer in the Cincinnati gaming world. He and his friend Jay opened up an arcade like way before way before it's trendy, way before barcades came out.
Yeah.
They opened up a little spot in Fairfield near Michael's Billiards.
Yep, I remember going to that one.
And
amazing.
Yeah, and I remember helping him set up games, and it was super scary because nobody was doing it.
Yeah.
He wanted a concept where he was like a hybrid between GameStop and an arcade. He wanted to sell stuff, and he wanted to have games for people to play. So
I have a lot of fond memories of that first location too.
He took a leap, man, and he did a cool model where you could buy a wristband, get in, play games, and his bread and butter was selling cool stuff, and giving people a better fair deal for their used stuff as trade. And he really built a niche in the market. And he's moved multiple locations. Most recently, he was in Forest Fair Mall, which was a crazy dead mall, but his arcade was always busy.
Yep.
And then when they finally were like condemning that place and shutting it down, he had to get out of there, and he found that killer spot in Sharonville. And he just opened up his third pinball room. He has 70 pinball machines in there now.
That's crazy.
And probably 100 arcade games. I mean,
easily.
His bar's open now, and his restaurant will open soon. So anyways, quick plug for him. But so the Shark Tank thing, though, he had asked me one day, he's like, man, you should use your AV experience. Another business of mine was an AV company. He's like, you should use that and make some sort of cool digital pinball table that we can put in my arcade. And I was like, man, that'd be fun. So we kind of messed around. We did it, and people started playing it and liking it, and they started asking me, hey, can you make me one? Can we do it? And so I started on the side, just making them in my garage, and it went really quickly and snowballed to, getting a lot of people wanting to make them. And we decided, the entrepreneur that I am, my wife was like, you're not starting another business at first. And then we sold a bunch and she's like, okay, maybe that'll be good.
Yeah.
So we decided to give it a go and we, built an official LLC in business, and VP Cab stands for Virtual Pinball Cabinets. It's not a taxi cab company, which we got confused with all the time.
You're like, I will give you a ride. I'm a nice guy, but.
And my kids, we always love watching Shark Tank. So my kids would always be like, Dad, you need to go on Shark Tank. And before that, with just being in the trades, with AV work, there wasn't really an avenue to take that on Shark Tank. It wasn't like I would apply. I sell home theaters. Can I be on Shark Tank? That's not the kind of thing that they usually pick. So once we started VP Cabs, they're like, dude, this is cool. It's modern. It's fun. It might be something that they would think is innovative, and maybe you could get on the show. So I applied online. And Shark Tank, you go through all these rounds of talking with the producers. So you'll apply, and you'll get an email or a call back at some point. Unless if you're anything relevant, I guess they'll look at it and say, oh, maybe we'll talk to this guy, and they'll call you and say, hey, let's have a chat, and they'll chat with you about it. Yeah. I think they're trying to get a feel for, can you speak well? Do they think you would do? You send them a photo, they kind of. It is a TV show, so
they're still kind of
even though
casting.
you're not getting paid as an actor, you are being cast on the show.
Right.
So if they like your idea and they think you might have a chance, which there's, I think, just 100,000 applicants or something every year, and they only like 200 and something actually film for the show every season. And only 160 of those make it on the air. So the really gut punch part is you can film an episode, get a deal, not get a deal, and never even make it on the air, which is wild. You don't learn that till further in the process. But
I guess if you get the deal, it's kind of like whatever.
The Sharks definitely want to get you on TV because that's the only way you get the extra publicity.
That's a
and
good
all
point
that
too.
stuff.
Yeah.
So it's one of those catch-22s. But you go through months and months of back and forth. Every week you have a phone call with two of the producers, and they're assigned to you. They're like your guy, and every week they tell you, hey, if we're still interested, we'll call you again next week. So you literally wait a week to hear if they're still interested, and they send you an email the night before, like, yeah, let's get on a call tomorrow, and you drop everything. You get on an hour-long call. You practice. The only thing rehearsed on Shark Tank is your initial pitch. Hi, my name's Brad. I probably could remember it verbatim if I wanted to, because for 6 months they rehearse that with you because they want you to remember the pitch. They help you design the pitch a little bit. I even hired a pitch guy because I really wanted to be. I'm not super great with words necessarily, so I hired this pitch guy to try to make me stand out and help me with my pitch, of which I even still forgot some of it. It was terrifying. But you go through 6 months of this, and then every time another week goes by, they're like, oh, you're getting closer. We're getting down to our cuts of who might make it to tape. Yeah. They tape in Hollywood, out at was it Sony Studios, and it's right there in the middle of everything going on. There's basketball courts in the middle, right next to their studios, which is just wild. I'm trying to think of the process of things. They go through all of this interviews, and then you get to the point where they say, okay, we think we're going to have you out. We're going to issue you a plane ticket, but we might cancel it. And you're just like, oh, every day you think you're like, okay, cool, I made it, I'm going to make it. But they're covering their rears basically and saying, okay, we think we want to have you out. We're going to buy a plane ticket just in case. But if we don't have room for you, we might cancel it.
Right.
But in the meantime, I had to ship all my stuff out at my cost. All these big machines, I had to spend thousands of dollars shipping my games out there to be ready.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, wild.
I'm going to use this tactic, by the way, in my personal life going forward.
That's fine.
I'm just going to be like, listen, maybe we'll hang out.
Yeah, man. So the games are out there. I get my ticket, and even the day before, they're still letting you know, we'll let you know if you're going to get on the plane tomorrow. Craziness. So for me, I got on the plane, I went out there, and you're there for a week, know, so and you're doing rehearsals throughout the week, and while you're there, you find out that they're eliminating more people live. So
wow.
So you don't find out till you get there, but then they're like, okay, we don't have enough time to tape this or do this. Well, I mean, I'm there all the way until taping started on Thursday, Friday or whatever, and they do 3 or 4 days of taping, and then they do that for 2 weeks in a row, and then they pause for a few months, and they do it again for the second half of the season, and then they edit it all together and do their thing. So we were there on the last day. I did my final pitch in front of like the big time producer, the big shot. And it was real nervous. And they have these pictures of all the sharks on the desk and you're pretending like you're actually doing it. And I think I botched it again. I was so nervous. And they're like, okay, thanks so much. Head back to your hotel room and we'll let you know by 9 p.m. if you're going to tape tomorrow or if we're sending you home. And I was like, awesome. So you just go back and sit on this bed in a hotel, like twiddling your thumbs, like you're not allowed to leave because you can't talk about what you're doing. And like, it's real. You sign all this NDA stuff that's like millions of dollars, scares you to death. And not even supposed to tell your children or family, it's wild.
Right.
Which is cool because they want everybody to be surprised. They don't want stuff to leak, and stuff, which I understand. But 9 o'clock rolls around, no call. 10 o'clock, no call. And I'm like, oh man, I'm just sitting there. You can't sleep. And I'm like, well, I guess they're sending me home. 11 o'clock, still nothing. Like right around midnight, my phone rings and I'm like, oh man, I answer it. And they're like, all right, you're first up in the morning at 7 o'clock. Be ready for the bus. We'll pick you up at 6, and like from the hotel. And I was like, of course you're excited, but you're also like, dang, I wish I would have known at 9, or whatever.
Right, exactly. Get full
Not like
sleep.
I would have slept anyways, but anyways. Well, I was fortunate though. I got the sharks fresh in the morning, first day of taping. They hadn't seen a bunch of ridiculous stuff that they were frustrated about, So I was there first up. My stuff was ready to go, set up, and then it was just like stand on this little X, and you got to stand there quiet for 60 seconds while we move all the cameras. That was like the longest 60 seconds of my life.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because you're looking at sharks and they're looking at you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you realize like, dang, these are like billionaires, and this is what I've dreamed of, but now I don't want to do it. I wanted to just go throw up. I didn't even want to do it. But my wife was like, hey, if you don't get a deal, you can't come home. So I was like, all right, sweet.
Yeah. Hotel's looking kind of nice now. Just in case. That's so funny.
But it was fun. It was stressful. You're in there taping for over an hour, and they edit it down to like 15 minutes. And you don't even, after it's over, you don't even remember what you said.
Yeah.
I just remember at the last second, Damon John made me an offer, who was unlikely to make an offer. I thought Mark Cuban was going to make an offer because he got up and played my machine, and he wouldn't sit down, and the producers had to cut, and they had to make him stop. They're like, Mark, we've got more people lined up. And Mark was like, I love this. I want to keep playing it. So I thought, I'm going to get a deal from Mark, the tech guy.
Yeah, but it would have made sense.
Well, we didn't create our own software. We licensed it. And Mark wanted something that had, he wanted to make money off the content, which would have been a smart move. I wish we could have figured that out. We never did. We always licensed it. But after the show, though, I was at CES, Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, to meet Damon secretly for a meeting before we aired. Cool. It was super cool. We got a call like a week before CES, like, hey, Brad, are you guys going to CES? And it was Damon's right-hand person. And instinctively I was like, yes. I wasn't. I didn't have a ticket. I didn't have a hotel room. Dude, we had to sleep in this flea bag, rent by the hour kind of place because CES fills up months in advance.
Of course.
But I couldn't say no because he's like, yeah, Damon wants to meet with you. We're going to talk business, do some stuff. I was like, rad. So that was awesome. And again, it was secret. I couldn't tell anybody that I was going there for that, which is wild. But after that, I was walking down the aisles and literally bumped into Mark Cuban. He was taping something and he was done and he walked into him and he's like, dude, I had my VP Cab shirt on. He remembered me from the taping, which was 3 months before. Yeah. And he's like, man, I want one of your machines. Can you do one up for me in Dallas Mavs and all this stuff? I was like, how do you? Yeah.
Of course.
He's like, here's my. He's awesome, man. He's like, here's my cell, here's my email. I answer everything. Anything you need, just let me know. I want to get one of these things. And sure enough, I'd send him messages, and he'd right away respond. And then he was like, hey, if you and Damon need any help with anything, he's like, I still don't mind helping you guys out. And true to his word, man, I can message him about something and him himself, this billionaire dude with no time on his hands, would and no money to gain from me would help me out. So he was a solid dude. So our experience on Shark Tank was awesome all the way around.
That sounds amazing.
We had a great time. Damon John, to this day, even though we're not in business together, we sold the business, but to this day, still he sent me a video on Thanksgiving Day. Hey, happy Thanksgiving. He has a big farm in upstate New York.
Oh, cool.
You wouldn't think, Damon John is this clothing mogul, and owns all these businesses, but he loves farming.
That's so cool.
He's got chickens and cows and horses and animals, and he sends me a video from his farm, with his chickens and stuff. Hey, I hope you're doing good, man.
That's amazing.
Have
I love
a great
that.
Thanksgiving. And he has nothing to gain from it, other than just we became friends, and we've had a good personal relationship besides business. And it's cool to have those kind of folks in your corner for anything.
Yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine like having that in the contact.
He was in Cincinnati to do a speaking engagement, and he says, "Hey, come to my engagement. Afterwards, we're all coming to Pinball Garage to hang out." I was like, "There you go.
Yes, please.
Yes, please."
Yeah. You're like, all right, I'll fire up the barbecue.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we did. So very cool.
I forgot to plug the barbecue.
No, that's okay.
Excellent.
That was the Shark Tank story. Probably longer than normal, but that was a little Shark Tank.
Thank you. I appreciate it because I don't think you've really told it in a public setting like this
most
before.
people, for the first few years, the stuff you sign, like the behind the scenes stuff, is like kind of hush hush.
Yeah.
And my experiences are all great. I mean, I don't think I say anything that they wouldn't care that I say because I really appreciate what the show did. I appreciate it all. Not everybody has, if you don't get a deal or you go through all that, I could imagine. So let's say I went through all that effort and I got sent home, or I didn't get a deal and I spent all that time and money. I could see where I might have a bad taste. And that's the risk you take, though. It's still a TV show.
Yeah.
The producers only care about what will sell the show.
Right.
What sells commercials for the show.
Yeah.
No matter how good your product is. So they go through and pick those fine balances of who is doing well or has a cool product. So I feel really fortunate that we're one of the very few people that have made it all the way, I guess you could say, man. Which is cool. So and that was way back in 2016.
Well, and it's funny because like I feel like this is one of those stories. You're just not that type of guy where I always like when I found out, because I think the way I found out was watching an episode. I'd not really watched the show much, right? Like I was familiar with it, of course, but I hadn't really watched it much until I got YouTube TV a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And
I was just like, oh, what's going on? And I was like, and I hadn't had cable or broadcast in a while, and I watched in there, and I think that may have been because I feel like I hit you up. I was like, I'm watching you in my living room right now.
You're scrolling through and
weird.
You see my ugly face and his beard pop up. Like, wait a minute.
I was like, I know that guy.
What's that guy doing there?
It was like the kind of moment where it was like, oh. And again, you would never, I don't know if it were, in me, I'd be like, I don't know if you knew, but,
like the Ron Burger,
I made it in the B-roll on American Idol. I've been coasting on that for years. I mean, I had, funny enough, it's funny to hear how many of these reality shows are the same way, where it was the same thing. It was like, all right, Mark, are you ready to sing for like 200 different Fox producers over the next 12 hours? Yep. Crazy stuff. But anyway.
They take a successful model for the reality stuff. And I would say like Shark Tank overall is one of the more authentic reality. I know a lot of reality these days is kind of scripted or partially scripted just for the wow factor.
Sure.
And it was cool to see through all that the only really scripted thing was the initial pitch. And I think they mainly do that. They don't want you to get in there and just be total deer in the headlights. Right. They ingrained it in your brain for so long that they figure you can get it spit out, even if it took some editing, which is cool. So it was cool. And truly, the Sharks didn't know me. They'd never seen me. They saw my products for the first time when they sat down. They had no idea. So there was no like pre-rehearsed stuff, to the point where after you make a deal, you still have to go through and do all the due diligence and to actually close your deal after the fact, because there's no wealthy smart person just going to shake your hand, give you a check for X amount of dollars and walk away. So there's a ton of after the show process that you have to go through to actually truly close the deal. So it was great to see all that, because these days you look at a reality show and you just assume the reality stars of Atlanta or whatever. You can tell that all of that.
There's a producer whispering.
There's a teleprompter probably. I mean, they're just watching it, So Real Housewives of Atlanta or whatever it is,
It's funny though, in my little binge period there, where because it was like for like a few weeks, it was like the only thing I was watching when I'd get home, and it was really funny. And I'm glad to hear this, because one of my takeaways, I was like, oh, the Sharks are being honest here, and I thought that was amazing.
That's another risk you take too, because when you go on there, let's say I went on and all of them were like, man, that's not what I don't think that's gonna do well. It was not fun to play or whatever. If whatever their opinion was, they're allowed to state their opinion, and they do without any regard to the effect it may or may not have on your business. So if they got up there and said, this is horrible, I don't know why anybody would ever buy this, it could have literally wrecked our business.
Yeah, put the tank in Shark Tank, right?
Yeah, it could have tanked it. Yeah. So all you think about trying to get on is the exposure, but the reality is there's bad exposure too.
For sure.
And in some ways, if you've got a product that it doesn't matter, that it's a little knick-knack type thing, then probably any exposure is good. But in my case, though, we're talking like a $5,000 to $8,000 product. We were the most expensive retail product to ever be on the show when I aired. Like there's other expensive products, but for retail consumer only purchase, we were like way up there. So me and Damon, we had no idea how much to make before we aired. Because the Shark Tank effect is pretty wild, because you get millions of hits that night. Your site can crash if you don't have a good back end. Luckily, we had Shopify. It was great. They,
awesome.
You literally call. It's funny. We had Shopify beforehand, and we call Shopify, and we're like, hey, we just want to check like how stable our platform is. We got some stuff coming up, and they're like, oh yeah, it's fine. And I was like, well, we just want to make sure, because we're gonna be on Shark Tank, and they're like, oh, hang on, and they put you on hold, and then like the main dude at Shopify, the president or whatever, gets on like, this is so and so. When are you airing? And who is your, and they get in and they do some stuff and they allocate these funnels of traffic ability. Just like they basically take all their powerhouse of servers, I guess, and they make sure that your website doesn't crash because Shopify is right there, and they want to make sure because they're known for most Shark Tank folks use Shopify now because they're known for making sure you don't crash when you're on the show.
Yeah,
because most people's little retail store websites can't handle a million people hitting it at once.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
So that was fun. Stuff like that was you never expect was really fun. And all of a sudden you're like this VIP where they're like, ooh, let me make sure you're getting taken care of. So that was all fun. It's so wild to think that was almost 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
But it's amazing. And then look, you're a great example though. You've taken this success and you've like poured it back into the community and all this stuff. And you're a nice guy too. Like, look, I'm glad that I get to tell those same stories. Like, my friend won Shark Tank.
Shark Tank.
I never know how to put it. I'm like, yeah. But just such a nice look. I really am very appreciative of knowing people like yourself. And this sounds dumb too, but I think about how the way media has been in the last few years in particular, but the way it's always been, right? It's obviously easier to get more hits out of bad stuff. So we're constantly inundated with bad things. And I'm always, I don't know, like I'm silly and weird, but like I definitely like to have these moments because I'm just like, look, there are great people out there that are doing cool things, that are doing nice things for your neighborhood. And you care. How crazy is that?
I think we're in the same boat. I mean, you're doing some amazing stuff here for the community, for the Jungle Gyms community.
Well, thanks. I appreciate
it's a killer thing to have
mostly
in Butler County.
Eating.
No, but I mean, maybe it's just me and you, but I am an extreme foodie, and just like yourself. And as we saw on the previous balut attempt episode, I'm one of those guys that'll try just about anything.
Yeah.
I've had the good fortune to go all over the world and travel, and mainly, if I'm being honest, my main motive is usually where can I find the coolest street food, like Philippines. Where can I find the coolest street food? I've been to Russia, I've been to Guatemala, I've been all over Mexico, and it's usually based around where is the most wild and out there taco stand. Like, do they have some sort of feet on the menu? Because whatever, I don't.
I'll try it.
I'll try anything once.
I always tell everybody I'll try it twice just in case I was in a bad mood the first time.
Or I'll try it twice at two places just to make sure I get a fair shake at it.
That's a good point too. Yeah, because like maybe maybe this is the bad one. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So,
I like your style, Brad. That's so cool.
It's very cool. Jungle Gyms has always been one of my favorite places to come. As a kid, it's like, if we couldn't afford to go to Kings Island, my mom and dad would probably shut us up. Just like, all right, let's go to Jungle Gyms. You can pick something from the weird candies of international world. You know?
You find something good. I see one. It's funny you mentioned that. I was looking the other day in Germany. There's this. We carry them still. It was one of my first personal because like my parents. I mean, we didn't grow up here. Like, we moved here. We were transplants. So I was like a little older when I got here. And I just remember us coming maybe once or twice, but I think we lived far enough away that they didn't care.
Right.
They were like, it's fine. Which is very funny, too, especially knowing, like, my family's ethnic background, where I was like, I really thought we would have been way more interested in this.
Well, 20 years ago, jungle wasn't what it is now, though.
That's a good point, too.
It's like probably 3 times the size.
Oh, for sure. Easily. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. And, like, I tell everybody, look at the roofs. That's how you can tell where the expansion's going.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh, that is a different top. But no, thinking about that, one of my first purchases ever, it was from Germany, and we still have it. It's on an end cap. I saw it yesterday. I think it's like called Choco Banan or something like that. But it's like these little chocolate-covered banana goo things. I was so excited.
Whoa, why aren't these things in here right
I know.
now
I should have. You know what's funny is
such a jerk.
We got caught up early, and I was like 11:30. I was like, I should text Brad to see if there's anything I should prep before this. And then we just ended up doing our other TikTok videos.
All good.
And then no, but it was one of those. It was like, all right, I'm going to Jungle Gyms. I'm an adult now, and tried that. And it was actually one of my least favorite tries, only because I don't like fake banana flavor. And it kind of hit that note. I was hoping more. I was like, it's international. They won't use fake flavor.
So banana Laffy Taffy's not your jam?
You know what's funny? I don't mind it, but it's not my first pick. If you're like, which of the runts would you like to eat?
That's usually the least. The bananas are the ones that there's a pile of usually.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know what it is. It's like, it's not. It won't make me mad, but if that was the only option, I'd probably pass. I'd rather dress like a banana. You know what I mean? All right. Well, what do you have coming down the pipeline, Brad? What can we? Anything coming up in the new year?
It's been a crazy year for us. This year we opened the Champion Mill Arcade, which is inside of Spooky Nook, which is cool. You gotta go check that out. Yeah, Spooky Nook's a pretty wild place. It's basically North America's largest indoor sporting event center.
So insane.
And besides just being sports, so there's 28 full court basketball courts. And it also turns into 56 full court volleyballs.
Wow.
So they have giant national tournaments there.
Yeah.
That when they have a full packed house tournament, it might bring in like 40,000 unique visitors to town, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
So one of the reasons we did Pinball Garage was because of the anticipation of just being a busier town on the weekends with that coming up. So when we found out that the Spooky Nook in Pennsylvania had an arcade, we approached the owner, Sam Byler, which is a super nice guy. He used to be the mogul at Auntie Ann Pretzel, and he sold it for like probably $1 billion. I don't know, whatever. Sold it for a ton of money.
Got that pretzel
was
money.
Still pretty young and had kids. And basically the story was his kids were in a lot of organized sports and there was no great place to house big tournaments. And he just had this crazy idea to build this giant place in the middle of a cornfield in Lancaster, PA. That was 10,
okay. I'm oddly familiar with that part of Pennsylvania.
Okay. Well, that was 10 years ago now. And it is, I mean, all the businesses around that area are like 100x what their revenue, what they used to be because they bring in so much people.
So when I was like 15, my dad worked for a company up in that area.
Okay,
and
awesome.
so like spent a lot of time. And I remember I'm just sitting here going like, wow, there's
Not
businesses in the cornfield?
Yes,
That's crazy.
Not a lot going on there.
I just remember people being mad that I was still pronouncing it Lancaster, not Lancaster.
Oh,
they were like,
is it Lancaster?
It's
like,
the Pennsylvania accent,
yeah,
right?
there you go.
I think it's one of those. I was like, I don't think I'm wrong. You know,
No, I got you.
But at the same time,
Lancaster.
Sam, comment on this video.
Yeah, we could probably get Sam. Sam's a great dude. We should get him on here one day.
We should do a Spooky Nook episode.
Yeah, there's so much going on there. I mean, besides the sports, there is a couple giant restaurants being built in there right now.
Oh, cool.
You know, so there's Municipal Brew Works has a location there besides their main one.
Yeah, their main one.
Pedals and Wicks has a location. Sarah's House has a location. Pedals and Wicks, by the way.
Yeah, I was like,
downtown Hamilton. It is a boutique like scent and make your own candle kind of shop. Candle parties, we've carried some of their candles before. Like we've got a pinball shaped candle.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's silver in color, and you know, you kind of like. She's like, "What do you want pinball to smell like?" I was like, we probably don't want it to smell like what pinball smells like, but you know, the gal Sherry that owns that place, they have a small location on the west side, and they opened up a mega location inside Spooky Nook. Super
Very cool.
There's a giant restaurant called Fork and Palette that's coming there.
Cool.
And they've hired a new chef. She was on one of the chef competitions on Food TV.
Amazing.
She did really well. It was one with Gordon Ramsay, I think. Hell's Kitchen. Yeah, she was on.
No kidding.
She was on
That's
Hell's
amazing.
Kitchen. Actually, that's like primetime TV. Actually,
Yeah, it was Fox, I think.
Yeah, she
right?
was. She was on that. Her name's Mindy. She's curating a really killer menu. So more killer food downtown.
I see. These are all people. I just need to get the Brad Baker collection of people to come in here and talk about it. We'll do a whole Hamilton episode. We should just do that.
That would be so much fun. We could get some of those folks to come in.
I'm dead serious. Like,
I mean, think about it. You've got Jason Campbell at Billy Yanks bringing in some killer stuff.
Oh, that's one of my
Billy's
usual holiday.
So
I was going to say it's my holiday stop.
As companies, we trade business cards, you know, for our staff, you know, so that we can give out theirs. They give out ours. It's always fun. But another great place. I mean, there's so many. We've got the new Pour House, which is like the self-pour tap place.
Nice.
We've got Casual Pint, which has been, they're one of the main staples. They've been around a while. It's a franchise, but Anne Marie that owns it has really taken it. They're in the Markham down there, right by the big amphitheater.
Oh, okay.
We talked about Tano's earlier. Yep. There's the new Mirchi Indian place.
I was just going to say that
so
was
good.
I've been wanting to try it, and I joked when I came up there. I was doing something with the Kettering Health people. They had like a thing on the square one day, and I came down there, and I was like, "Oh, we've got Indian food in Hamilton now." I was like, "Things are coming along."
Well, we've got Basil, which has been there for a while.
Yeah,
very good, higher end, scratch made Asian food, but also killer burgers. It's wild, something for everybody.
Huh. Well, I had no idea.
Yeah, they're catering our holiday party for our staff this weekend. And then what else is? I mean, there's Roll on In's been around for a while. The big sushi burritos. My buddy John owns that place.
Cool.
That guy went from owning a chain of body shops, selling that, and is like, maybe I'll start a sushi burrito place. You know, and I think he's franchised over like 100 of those now across the country. So,
because I think I went to
cool
one in,
stuff.
I want to say in like Lebanon.
Yep. Yeah. His original was originally in Lebanon. Yeah.
That was fun. What a concept I didn't know I wanted until I ate it.
I know. Super great.
I love it.
So man, there's just so much.
That's so cool.
You know, and then of course this year we bought All 8 Up. So Pinball Garage bought the All 8 Up restaurant. So All 8 Up was Tony and Kathy, the owners previously, have been there about 10 years. They have between Tony and his dad, they've got like 30 years of pizza ownership experience. They've had a place in Fairfield, Hamilton, all over, and they were just got famous for their calzones, hoagies, you know, just classic style pizzas. They kept it real simple. It was a small kind of little hole in the wall, but the building itself was a lot bigger that he wasn't using, and we wanted an opportunity to expand our kitchen and move our barbecue joint. We had a barbecue food truck before.
Right.
We wanted to move that into a year-round kitchen that we could be open every day. So we bought the place, basically shut it down for 2 months, gutted it, remodeled it, and we put in a 72-seat dining room along with a kitchen that's like 3 times the size. So we've got indoor smokers under the hoods. We've got a unique thing about most pizza places. They'll cook their wings and other type of bar food through their pizza oven, which is okay, but it's not the same as having a fried wing, right? If you're going to have a real true buffalo wing, you want it to be fried.
Yeah,
so
give me that crisp.
Because we're barbecue, we smoke our wings, we fry them, then they get a dry rub, sauce on the side.
Good
we
too.
I think we won like 7 or 8 Best of Butler County awards this year. I'm not like a big fan of tooting my own horn.
No, but deservedly so.
Super proud because I love food and I've always wanted to do some type of food thing. Our barbecue has done really well. We've got a 20-hour smoked brisket. We do a brisket pizza now. We do,
it's really
good.
Oh my gosh,
we do brisket loaded potato skins. I mean, we bake and hand core the potatoes every day. We don't buy the frozen shells.
Yeah.
So we do them from scratch. Everything like the potatoes. We've got loaded tots with barbecue on them. I've got a 100-year-old chili recipe from my great grandmother that we've taken and we've merged it with our pulled pork, our smoked pork.
Baby.
So it's a smoked pulled pork chili that's got a little bit of a Cincinnati flair because it's got a little sweetness to it, but then it's got some spice and it does have your traditional hearty beans and tomato chunks in it. So it's not like Cincinnati chili in that aspect. Yeah. And we just reintroduced that onto the menu last week, and cool. We're making just huge barrels every day, which is really cool. So the community has really gotten behind us and has every new thing we come out with, the whole town will come try it, and which is great. So
that's so cool.
So it feeds everybody at Pinball Garage. It feeds everybody that's used to All Ate Up because we've got delivery and we've got late night now. So it's been a busy year for us.
You embrace the community, they embrace you back.
Yeah, I think
it's
so.
A good symbiosis.
I feel like when you own a business in a community, especially if there's retail involved, your number one goal, of course, is to stay in business. You've got to make money. You got to try to make a profit. That's super hard to do. Over the years, for some reason, I think the word profit has turned into this dirty word for businesses, which is unfortunate because if you don't profit, you can't hang around. So you've got to get to a point or try to get to a point where you're making money. But also, if your community supports you, I think it's very reciprocal. It's great to get out there, especially if you're in the food service business. Hamilton's a downtown community. There's always folks that could use a meal and in need. So we've got some local. We've got a thing called the King's Plate actually, where someone can come in and say, "Hey, I want to throw $5 in a King's Plate or whatever," and we take that money and we put it towards if somebody comes in that can't afford a meal, we just say, just grab something off the menu. Here's a pizza. Here's a whatever.
That's so cool.
And it's not really us doing it. It's just us facilitating our local community and citizens that maybe want to help out a little. And because we serve food, it's easy for us to grab a couple extra pizzas, walk under the parking garage where there might be some homeless folks. And give them some lunch or something. And now we're seeing other local restaurants like kind of jumping on board and like doing the same thing. So I think that just kind of like spans out. Everybody gets on board. It helps the community. It helps folks. And it's just good all the way around, I think.
Yeah,
it's
amazing.
You don't want to just take, right?
No.
In everything, in relationships, in life, in family, in business. You want to try to do your best to, like, if you've been blessed or fortunate, it's great to do what you can. Turn it around a little bit. You
get what you give.
Yeah,
as simply put,
Always.
That's awesome. Brad, thanks for being you.
Yeah, man.
As corny as that sounds.
Yeah,
I'm full of trite sayings today. But it's hard not to when I'm like, oh, you're really genuinely doing a great thing. And
thank you.
We're glad you're here.
Well, it's fun to be here. And obviously I wanted to be here. I was knocking on your door like, hey, get me on your show again, man.
I felt, and when I said, I was like, oh, I feel bad for not asking.
No, dude, you got so much content
all the time,
capabilities. So I knew, I was like, not saying that I was like forcing you to put me on the show, but I thought, man, it's been a while. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm surely need an excuse to go buy some stuff here to eat for lunch that I don't necessarily
I know
that I don't need, but I want. So I came hungry, and I'm gonna leave with a whole bunch of weird stuff. I'm sure,
awesome.
which is great.
Thanks for keeping me employed.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome, Brad. Pleasure's always, buddy. Anytime you're welcome all the time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Every
so
day.
much.
Now you'll be here 5 days a week with me.
Hey,
new co-host.
If there's a way to get on the payroll, and it doesn't even have to be pay, it could just be in like gift card or whatever. I'm down. We'll make it work.
Listen, we got like an extra cut of beef.
Yeah, put me on third shift. I don't care. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Brad, that was a ton of fun. Thank you for everything. I look forward to building the Marcade with you here in the store. I hope you found all kinds of weird products to try, and I hope all of you get out there and check out some of the other offerings in the neighborhood. You know, we've got a couple pinball machines here. Brad's got a ton of them. So go play some pinball, eat some of his painfully delicious wings or his brisket, and then stop back by the jungle and buy the product so you can make some of that at home yourself. Huh? Everybody goes home happy. All right, everyone, I appreciate the support as always. Make sure, hey, you know what? I meant to bring this up earlier. We're starting a whole new series of chef dinners. Don't forget those. The first one is Friday, January 12th. It is going to be a night at the Oscars where we are making a 7-course dish based around some of your favorite foods. Very cool. You can get more information at junglejims.com/Oscars. Okay, on that, I'm going to do some shopping myself, so I'll see you out there in the aisles.
The Jungle Gyms podcast is recorded in the WJJI studio inside Jungle Gyms International Market in Fairfield, Ohio. The Jungle Gyms podcast is produced and hosted by Mark Borison.